Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of the latest mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I'm Will Robinson Smith. Will be providing our commentary for the duration of this coverage. As we kick things off, want to note that we are joining you live this morning on this Memorial Day here in the United States, where we honor and take time to remember those who served our country and were lost in the line of duty. So a thank you to all to whom those who've served and paid the sacrifice for our country, and to those who have family members and are remembering them today. We appreciate the service of your family as well. We are joined, as we always are, by our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, who's running the technical operations of the broadcast today. Adam Bernstein is out in the field preparing to track the rocket as well as do some still photography. And our Michael Kane has the morning off. If you're not already following the fellas, you really ought to be doing so. You can find them over on X, formerly known as Twitter. Adam Bernstein at ABurnNYC, Michael Kane at MD Kane Jr. And while you're there, be sure to follow Spaceflight Now, simply at Spaceflight Now. We are also on Facebook and Threads for all of you who are not currently on X. We'll also be joined in tracking by our friend Chuck Briggs. And by Pete Karstens with Max Q Productions. We're currently T-minus 57 minutes, 7 seconds, and counting to the launch of the Starlink 6-60 mission. This will be SpaceX's 39th dedicated launch of the year, sending up Starlink satellites. This is also the 101st orbital launch from around the world today. And for SpaceX, this will be their 13th launch of the month. The most they've ever launched in a single month, looking to continue to push that record with a 14th launch as soon as tomorrow, capping off the month of May. That is an Earth-observing spacecraft for the European Space Agency called EarthCare, launching from Vandenberg Space Force Base tomorrow evening. We'll have much more on that launch as we start that live coverage about 30 minutes prior to liftoff of that Falcon 9 rocket. But for now, we're focused on the one here in the center of your screen, far off in the distance in the shop. You can see the American flag there at half staff, again, marking today as Memorial Day here in the United States. So most banks and many businesses and parts of the government are off today, but it is a launch day, which means we're going to be right here with you from liftoff to booster landing. I certainly want to thank the more than 2,100 of you that are with us this morning as we kick things off. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button and share the stream if you haven't already. Allows more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. And be sure to subscribe to Spaceflight Now while you're at it if you haven't already. Click that bell icon when you do so you're notified when we start these live streams and post new videos here on the YouTube channel. Of course, we were preparing for a sunrise or close to it launch this morning. SpaceX, though, did not have the Falcon 9 rocket vertical in time for a 7:30 takeoff. And so they pushed to basically the end of the window, looking at a T0 liftoff time of 11:29 a.m. Eastern, 15:29 UTC. Weather looking fairly ideal for a launch this morning, though. The 45th Weather Squadron tracked the launch window between 5 to 10% chance of violation, or to flip that around, that was 95 down to 90% favorable conditions for launch this morning, with the only consideration for concern being the cumulus cloud roll, although it's fairly blue skies here. A little hazy though this morning. As you can see from the wide shot, a fairly pretty start to the day. Of course, Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge has been dealing with some fire in another part of the area far away from the launch infrastructure, but had some thunderstorms roll through the area over the weekend, which lightning strikes sparked a wildfire that's been uh, the source of some, you know, pretty interesting photos over the weekend. You can find a lot of those floating around on X, again, formerly known as Twitter. Take a look at the radar here, though. You can see some, looks like some fairly severe storms pushing through northern Alabama into Georgia this morning, but calm conditions down here on Florida's Space Coast. And you can see here, looking at an image, a radar image, some of those clouds are just really off in the Atlantic area, pushing away from us. So pretty idyllic conditions for a launch this morning as we are T minus 52 minutes, 48 seconds and counting to the launch of the Starlink 6-60 mission. With this current T0, SpaceX is at the end of the window. So for whatever reason, they are not in fact ready to launch in the next 52 minutes and some change. They'll have to pivot to their backup window tomorrow, which opens up at 7:30 a.m., same as today. Taking a look at the live chat, I want to thank Callisti Lee, one of our moderators, for hopping in with us this morning, as well as to Rusty Shackelford. Appreciate the both of you helping us out in the AM. Also worth noting that we are powered by a wonderful channel member community here on YouTube, which, thanks to the generosity of a number of our members, is currently more than 900 strong, which is so awesome to see. So thanks to all of you who have individually uh, elected to become channel members, those who have gifted channel memberships. Really helps what we do here at Spaceflight now, especially as we're gearing up for big launch coverage over the next 2 weeks with a pair of marquee missions between Boeing's Starliner spacecraft, which is currently targeting launch now on June 1st, as well as SpaceX's Starship rocket down in southern Texas, which is looking at a no earlier than June 5th launch date, as they are awaiting FAA approval for that mission, for Flight 4 of that Starship rocket. So we'll be back on the road for that one, and your support certainly helps make reporting on the road a much more feasible thing. So thank you to channel members like Kevin Kyle, Awakened One, Butterfly, Wendy P., Donald Trammell, Bonnie Long, Fiona Murray, Jane Jones, Cheryl Robertson, excuse me, and many others. Channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop. That's spaceflightnow.com, where you can find things like embroidered mission patches for the aforementioned crew flight test of the Starliner spacecraft, as well as the upcoming August launch of SpaceX's Crew 9 mission to the space station. You can also see 4K liftoffs of all of the missions from here at the Cape, as well as access member-only videos here on YouTube. Speaking of gifting, I want to thank Psychonaut69 for gifting a Spaceflight Now membership. Really appreciate that, Psychonaut. Thank you so much. Last but not least, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation here on the channel as we gear up for the last 49 minutes here before liftoff, You could use the YouTube Super Chat feature. And if your comment or question is appropriate to be read on the show, I'd love to bring you into the chat about this mission or general space topics. We'll do our level best to answer your questions as they come up. And as we are at T minus 48 minutes, 49 seconds and counting, we're just a little more than 10 minutes away from the point at which the SpaceX launch director will make the call on the start of propellant load, if they are in a good position to do so. So let's go ahead and talk about the launch countdown and the milestones that we are anticipating as they come up. So if that go ahead is in fact given at T minus 38 minutes, fueling begins with RP1 or rocket grade kerosene being loaded on board the first and second stages of the Falcon 9 rocket. At the same time, liquid oxygen is loaded on board the Falcon 9's first stage. T minus 16 minutes, second stage LOX load begins. But before that happens, we'll see the so-called big vent from the strong back happens as the feed lines are chilled in the pad. That comes about around T minus 20 minutes, 20 seconds or so. T minus 7 minutes, the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines gets underway. It involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps. It protects the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during the startup sequence. About 6 minutes before liftoff, the first stage kerosene tank should be full. Then at T minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the strongback retract begin. It starts with the clamp arms underneath the payload fairings opening up, and then the transporter erector for the strongback will recline about 1.5 degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket. It stays in that position until liftoff. At that point, pulls back in a much more rapid fashion to clear the way for the vertical climb of the Falcon 9. About 3 minutes out, the first stage liquid oxygen tank is full. T minus 2 minutes. LOX load on the second stage also wraps up. At that point, the Falcon 9 is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. The propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. The SpaceX launch director gives their go for launch at T minus 45 seconds. The engine ignition command is issued at T minus 3 seconds, and if all 9 Merlin 1D engines are healthy and ignite, the command will be given for the hold down clamps to release the bird for a T0 liftoff at 11:29 a.m., 15:29 UTC, or T minus 46 minutes and 15 seconds. And as you see the countdown clock in the upper right hand corner of the screen, unfortunately, the mission has been scrubbed today. As mentioned, SpaceX is Now targeting no earlier than 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning for the launch of the Starlink 6-60 mission. SpaceX has not stated a reason specifically for the scrub, weather ideal, so likely not the weather. We know the rocket went vertical a little bit after 6 o'clock or so this morning, which is close to around the limit for where SpaceX is able to make a launch happen. They need about a little over 4 hours, give or take, between the rocket going vertical and a launch actually happening. So, unfortunately, that is the way the ball bounces sometimes, folks. So, really appreciate you being with us this morning. But again, if you were just hopping into the live coverage here, unfortunately, the Falcon 9 rocket you see here on your screen is going to remain parked there at pad 40 until at least tomorrow morning. Again, the launch window for the Starlink 6-60 mission now opens up at 7:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. That is Tuesday, May 28th here on the East Coast. Next launch opportunity for that, which means SpaceX is setting themselves up for potentially a double launch day between now the Starlink 6-60 mission in the AM and the European Space Agency's EarthCare spacecraft coming up around 6:30 p.m. So want to thank our friends Pete Carstens and Chuck Briggs for being on standby to try and capture the rocket when it launched. Of course, because of the scrub, that's no longer going to happen. But thanks to the fellows for being on the ready for that opportunity. Our thanks, as always, to our photographers, Anna Bernstein, Michael Kane, our editor, Stephen Young. Sure to head over to Spaceflight Now's website, spaceflightnow.com, for updates on happenings in the space industry. And most of all, thanks to you for taking part of your morning to, in an ideal world, have watched a rocket launch, but we'll be more than happy to bring that coverage to you tomorrow or whenever SpaceX is ready to launch this mission. So for all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm a Robinson Smith. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and we will see you next time, folks, and have a safe Memorial Day. Bye-bye.